Okay, everybody can hear us.
Okay, I'm gonna call a meeting of City Council of Sodaville into order on November 17th, 2022 at 7 o'clock. Please stand for flags of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Want someone else to read the roll call, or if you do it?
Yeah.
Present.
Here.
Here.
You're the only one. Okay. We got roll call, this is done. How about anyone make one pay the bills?
Who made the motion to pay the bills? A second.
Any nays? No.
What?
Right, us to abstain.
I make a motion that we pay the bills. He has to abstain.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
that Brian made
I
the,
did the motion, yeah.
Oh, you made the motion?
Brian made the motion,
Oh,
It is said.
Okay.
Okay.
or you printed it now.
All right.
Okay.
I was making the motion.
Motion made, Sills, and then made and seconded, and all in favor. So you go passes. Okay. Anyone make a motion to pass the minutes from the October 20th meeting?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the October meeting.
Second on that one? No second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. It's the time to speak to the city council or mayor on any subject, including what is listed on the agenda, except for public hearings. Time limit is 3 minutes per person. You have any public comment? Seeing none, we now go on to the city report, city recorder's report.
Okay. I'll start with city finances first off. There are a couple of things that we needed to go over if you look at the finance report. There are a couple of errors. Well, there's one error with electricity reporting that I noticed. It makes it look like there's only $600 left in that budget. That's because I have been under my direction, the accountant has been reporting that incorrectly. There are 2 electricity line items in the budget, and I've actually been putting them all into one rather than splitting them like they're supposed to be. So we don't actually just have $600 left. We have several thousand. So that's good. The other thing is that if you look at insurance, there's another spreadsheet in there that has it kind of on one page. It's a little earlier. That's the one.
Okay.
If you look at the 3 insurance line items, there's only one that isn't running a deficit beyond what was budgeted. And I looked that up this night. It looks like we under budgeted for insurance payments this year because the safe insurance entity raised our annual premium by about $500, but didn't tell us until after the fiscal year had started. So if we had known it was going to be $500 higher, then we would have budgeted enough. Unfortunately, Safe didn't tell us until after. Would you think it was a state agency that would let us know during budget season?
I'm wondering if that notice somehow went out and got missed. That we received it, but we didn't know we received it.
I don't see the SAI.
So it's just grouped under insurance.
Liability. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
it's running a surplus in the streets program, but a deficit in water administration.
Okay.
So that's the reason for that deficit. So thanks a lot, Safe. That is something that will come up in the audit report next year. I caught it now, so we'll be able to tell the auditor. We thought we were going to have the same premium, not one that was $500 more than normal. So, yeah, that's the finance update.
Okay.
Next up, city updates. So it's noted in here, since the last meeting, I've been ill twice, which has made it difficult to make progress like I normally like to. So sorry about that. The thing that I really wasn't able to spend time on as a result of being sick in the last month was the ordinance complaint about noise and dust generated by a motorcycle. No, we do have a bit of saving grace because soon afterwards, the person that made the complaint withdrew it because it's raining. Nobody's riding their motorcycles like that anymore. That also gives us time to address it. Yes.
I also heard gentlemen that was living there riding bikes because since moved on.
No.
It's been kicked down. Well, good. That's what I was told.
There you go.
Yep, when a kid don't ride his bike.
Okay.
Well, hopefully that problem's resolved. If not, we'll address it again if it comes up, right?
Exactly. And I've got more time to work on it because, who knows, maybe next dry season they'll do it again, but that's the state of that.
Where's that at? Pine Street, right next to the summer school.
Probably Houston School. Can we say that?
No, not a good idea.
Probably not a good idea in a council meeting. Yeah.
Like I said, if it arises again, we'll try to approach it and tackle it in other ways to make it an ordinance. But, we do have fire prevention rules here, so we try to keep from doing stuff. So.
And safely, if it truly does present a visibility hazard for people driving on that street and have bright lights, we need to truly pay attention.
I took over a report from JD, and that's the Water Management Conservation Plan. So our previous Public Works Director had submitted the first draft a couple years ago. It wasn't rejected, but it was just marked as incomplete. There were some things that needed to be taken care of that weren't at the time. So I ended up taking that over from JD in the past month. And I had a great Zoom call with the people at Water Resources. They were super nice, super helpful. They have a really expansive document. It's like 200 pages of like everything. I know I go cross-eyed too, but it's not like you have to know this. It's like, here's every possible answer to every question. So they were so great and so helpful. So this is something that's going to be a lot easier to complete than TMDL, which is kind of like, they'll say, publicize, you're not supposed to have dog waste in public, tell you there's no rules, and then you do it, tell you did it wrong. So it's the best polar opposite of TMDL. On the TMDL front, everybody got a copy of the potential change to our zoning ordinance to address post-construction stormwater runoff. I asked DEQ for a city that had a good model for addressing it, and they said the city of Millersburg. It's the thing that was stable to me. Ordinance 22. Yeah.
We can make sure we're not saying we can do something.
Sure.
Doing stuff like this, things is permit that you put in the house, the square footage of the house or apartment or something like that would go down through the. There used to be a permit there used,
Okay, I can research that. That's good.
I'm gonna hear something about that way back. You went down.
Yeah, it's good. Maybe years ago.
So just going to give more background for everybody here. I just kind of got this together this afternoon. DEQ is reviewing it. This isn't going to be final at all. This is just kind of a first take at what if we could just kind of do what this other city does. So this is kind of for everybody to take home and look at. DEQ is reviewing it to see whether or not we're on the right track. I'm going to need comments from JD, of course, about whether or not we can even do this. Yeah, so this is not I only just put it together tonight, so everybody's seeing it for the first time. And this isn't like, okay, make a decision now. It's here it is, take it home, tell me what you think. DEQ is reviewing it once we get comments internally as well. If everybody likes what we have, then we'll submit it to the city attorney for review. And then we can pass it as a council. So tonight's the first one. That's what this is. This is everybody getting it for the first time.
So dumb it down. What is this saying? Do we have to do something special if anybody wants to build a house?
We have to require that they do stuff.
Yeah.
on stormwater, and we don't really have storm drains.
Those are the issues.
Those are the.
In some areas, we do. Like the house that's being built right now or getting ready to be built, there is nothing there, so that's why I want to kind of make sure that we're still able to follow everything.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah. I'm out in the field, I see things a little bit differently than.
The guy who's sitting behind a desk all day, exactly, yeah.
I know that years ago, there was a permit process. That you had to satisfy the city for.
Was that city or county?
No, it was city.
I remember being discussing it a long time ago.
There's some erosion control things that they have to follow for it as well.
For some reason, it sticks in my mind that it was an excess water statute that the city had.
That would make sense in trying to protect your water supply, especially the house that's getting ready to go in.
It seems to me it was about the time that JD was now. Yeah.
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 So, because it was part of that project, and then when you got the routes out through the city, we turned over to Jamie Griffith to finish the project. I did, and his nephew has to finish that project, and nephew did the one down below down there. Yeah.
So that might give you a timeline if you figured out when that was happening up there in that permit process, because with the city ordinance. So
It could be that it just wasn't one of our previous development codes that ended up getting mixed eventually.
Yeah, that was our second development. You couldn't just get it. This around all around your house. The whole hillside. There's only that one house up there, and Logan County owned all the rest of that property, and J.D. Griffith took it over for Logan County, and when he passed, I don't know if his nephew or something like that, or maybe he finished it up when he got done with it.
Now what happens is we have to either build it. And,
Your house or?
well, I was up there. Yeah, it was in the bank. Anyways, I've got sick and passed away, and this is the process of trying to finish up the house. And it's really complicated for me. Once his wife passed away, some development up there. So he's going to sell it, and he sold that 10 acres that was up there in that area, and that's how the development started right there.
So are you thinking that that ordinance that we have to put in urban might improve things?
what I'm saying is, excuse me, that we might already have something. We might already have something in place and it's just been overlooked. I can't imagine that it's being overlooked with all the stuff that we've gone through in the past. How that's.
Yeah, really.
Is your tongue in your cheek right now?
Yeah. Okay.
For example, this development codes. Every time we've passed one, we basically said the entirety of the last thing is jettisoned and abolished, and we don't care about it anymore.
Right.
So it could be that when it was renewed, it was just not moved
Carried
on. Yeah.
Well, and it strikes me kind of funny that I remember that from years ago, but here in the last several years, it's never come up again. Yeah. So. It had to do with the deed, and the county was involved with it, and the city was collecting a fee for these. You know, for building sites or. That's what it was supposed to be for, is those permits were supposed to handle any cylinder stuff. That's what that permit was for. So, all the things that may not be there anymore, but once upon a time it was there.
Okay, it's been the best thing for me to do would be to look into our past development codes and see if there's something in there. Yep.
Okay, I'll show you.
Yeah.
No.
There's a list of the meetings I've attended in the last month about stuff. The Council of Governments had a bias survey in the community to talk about bias that people encounter. And there was an hour-long Zoom call I kind of listened to while I was doing other work. That was just kind of weird. They talked about, they had tried to have community meetings to get feedbacks. They held one in Lebanon and nobody came. So, okay.
Didn't they say they had one person for the charity? They had one.
There was a couple of places where they had them, but yeah, that was okay. Weird. I don't know. It didn't really seem super valuable here. Yeah. Yeah.
The rural areas,
Somebody, the presenter got slapped by one of the people on the Zoom call for using the phrase minority.
Yeah, don't go there.
Let's see, it was a good time to address, at the last meeting, that we made changes to our water ordinance. That talked about the public works director's role, and Jeff raised the concern about what if we don't have a public works director, somebody in that, and it says the public works director is supposed to. That was actually covered at the beginning of the ordinance, where it describes the public works director as a person the council says is just in charge of doing this. So right now we have several systems in place for what happens if that position becomes vacant or JD is out of town. We have counselors who can do things, or we have a contract with council. So this isn't if JD's gone, can't do anything. It's ideally he's the one doing the water stuff, but we already have systems in place and specified in the ordinance that it's just whoever it happens to be, as long as the council's already said yes. So mostly sent everybody an email a couple days ago, I think yesterday, actually, that I'm going to be working in the hospital starting next month as a legislative aide. So as a result, I was the one that officially be Sodaville's lobbyist. This position is probably going to last through next July. Let's say part-time position, right? It's working for a legislator. I've been working on their campaign. If they've been elected, I'll be working in their office part-time, 10 hours a week. So it's just replacing one part-time position for another. So I'm not stepping back or saying I'm going to resign. It's just the other thing to do in my spare time now. The other thing about being the official lobbyist for Sodaville means that I get a lot of perks. I get to join the lobbyist association. So I get a key to the building that gets me in after regular business hours, and I get to use the parking garage. And I get to be in the cool kids club that says, yeah, you're one of us. You're one of them. We're supposed to be there. You're really a professional. You get to use the clubhouse they have at the bottom. I will get all of this anyway, but instead of me paying for those perks, I will be paid to be in the building. So
That's good.
How does this impact your ability to step forward for us? Because I remember you really supporting this, that you can get in front of people to represent Sodaville. So I was a little disappointed that all of a sudden you're not going to have that role and not supporting us. So what's replacing that?
Thankfully, there are different sort of ethics rules I have to follow when representing the city. So, for example, I probably won't be signing anything under my name as the city recorder. I will just have Mayor-elect Lewis be signing letters saying, yes, here's what the city of Sodaville does and doesn't support. Legislative staff are also allowed to testify at committee hearings, but not on the clock. So I will only be working in the Capitol on Mondays. So the rest of the week, there's a committee hearing. I will be there as Sodaville's person testifying. I know, yeah, it is tough. But yeah, that's not going to affect how I interact over there. Being a registered, the idea behind the state regulations about lobbying is to prevent any sort of pay-to-play system. So the legislature has rules for how they interact with lobbyists, and lobbyists have rules for how they interact with the legislature. And the idea is to prevent anybody paying legislators for voting a certain way, that kind of thing. Now, a lot of cities have their staff and elected officials lobby anyway without doing that registration, because a lot of them will do it just kind of as a tertiary part of what they do. me being a registered lobbyist is something that gives one kudos to Sodaville as an entity, especially because I got to join the lobbyist association. I was at a meeting with city managers last week, and they were talking about how hard it is just to get anything done. I was like, registered lobbyists for your cities, you can join the club. They're like, oh, we don't have to do that. I'm like, well, that's why I get things done, and you don't. So yeah, they're ultimately we'll still be doing what we've been doing. We'll be able to do things for the city of Sodaville. There's just a different set of ethics rules to follow. So yeah, basically, it's
I did a different ethics. For following the rules, yeah, because I don't know orange.
Yeah.
But my concern is, will you speak with the same professionalism or have the same people looking at you if you're not registered as a lobbyist?
yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, this happens all the time. I just need to make sure I'm following the different rules. The two primary people we'll be talking with are going to our senator and representative Cedric Gaten and Jimmy Cade. So it's not going to be a problem for me to continue to represent Sodaville's interests in the Capitol, just as long as I'm not doing on the clock as a legislative employee. If they walk into the legislative office and I go, hey, have you thought about voting? That's a big no. But when I'm out of there, then I can go, hey, Senator, hey, Representative, wanted to talk about X, Y, and Z thing.
We did do. Get to meet one. That way you're meeting the right people and almost get some of our cases resolved, right?
I know another thing, like when I testify, for example, if I have to go to a committee hearing, I'll say, hi, I'm delivering these marks on behalf of the mayor of Sodaville, that kind of thing. So there are ways to separate yourself. Ultimately, the advantage of being a registered lobbyist and joining the club is that you get a lot of perks that I will now get because I'm a legislative staffer, as opposed to being a lobbyist. So there won't be any interruptions. I just have to make sure I'm not stepping outside a couple of certain rules. So I'm still going to be able to advocate for the city's interests in the capital.
No offense, I don't really care that you get the property.
Yeah.
But the city gets, as long as you still city without the title of our lobbyist. Yeah, and we don't have to pay you to go to Salem on those days, on Mondays. So.
Yeah, the other thing is that all committee hearings for the next 2 years are going to be by Zoom. So I'm going to have to go to Salem to testify. I will just log in on the computer.
Good.
The other thing is this one effect. So your concerns are warranted. If somebody who didn't really know how the situation worked were doing this change, there would be a lot of red flags. But I've been lobbying in Salem and interacting there for the last 8 years. So I know everything we need to do to make sure we keep within the bounds of the law and don't get punished for anything. Yeah, so thank you for bringing this up because it's something the public does need to know. What was that?
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to answer. How do I identify yourself?
You know, Alex, I think the main reason I'm so concerned about other things you do is you're doing a good job.
Yeah. We appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
But that's my dream job. I need to make sure. Campaign staffer, now I'll be working as a legislative staffer, so it's just swapping one thing for another. There's no stepping back, no potential of resigning. I'm going to stick around, and this will enable me to stick around. I'm just on the caves and
It has nothing like anybody's pointing everything on his job.
They did, yeah.
I think they want to be confident. They get pick him up.
Okay, so you are done with your reports then? Okay, yeah. Public works report?
I'm not changing anything. Yeah. The water on the sheet that you guys got, the water loss showed 8%. It's actually closer to 5% because I did not take into consideration the reservoir difference. With the water being trucked in, it makes things hard to populate right now. So, that's blame it on me. No, I don't blame anybody. If find some flow change, I didn't figure that in this time. And so it's got this reservoir plus minus 0 and it shouldn't have been 0. One of our residents, I'll say down on Knoll Street, had a roughly 16,000 gallon leak. The daughter-in-law, I believe it was, went out to water the dog, left the hose on. 3 or 4 days later, I discovered there was a leak. I went there and immediately shut their water off, told them to find a plumber. Day or 2 later, a plumber came. They said, whoa, that's a lot of water. We don't know, we don't see anything. So they left and told him before they left, they told the gentleman that he needed to find a leak detector, company that does leak detection. They came, found the garden hose wide open. So then they turned the water back on for the family. Long story short, it cost them roughly $400 for their 16,000 gallon leak, but it cost the city well over $1,000. I really think something needs to be reevaluated with the way we bill, especially during water restrictions when we're trucking in water.
So
And if you consider raising the rates all year round, that would help absorb some of that as well. But that's something I think council seriously needs to look at. We had a problem last year that was very similar to this. And it's, yeah.
We just raised our rates about 3 years ago, so it wasn't gonna raise our rates anyways.
I wasn't here, so I don't know.
Right, I just know that utilities, yeah. Kind of substantially. 30% increase.
35 to 45.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, I mean, my thought on this is that this is extremely unfortunate. The city cannot continue to, you know, suffer that kind of impact. You know, that just makes it that much more important for us to get this water supply down there so that we don't have to truck the water in. Like I said, it's not the customer's fault that we can't supply them water year round.
I understand that, but it's also.
I understand it's a burden to the city. I mean, we can't sustain
If we have
stuff
3
like
or
that.
4 of
Right?
those, we're gonna have a major issue.
And
Exactly.
that's not just a little bit of a leak, that's a huge leak. And
It
I'm
is.
wondering, can we adjust our tiers?
Yeah, that's
And if
what I'm
you
saying.
do over 10,000, you
Look
know,
at
because it's very
reevaluating
rare.
how you do it. Especially higher end users. Yeah.
But that's part of the reason how we got those meters too, is so that we can try to mitigate, you know,
And that's the thing, I'm
those
reading the
issues.
meters, I'm reading everybody's meter every Monday. If Monday's a holiday, I'm doing it Tuesdays. So I'm catching them a lot quicker than it's happening for a month.
It's good because that could have been 50,000 gallons, right?
Right.
Before they found it
But they
again.
start on Tuesday, and you read on Monday, that's a week of a week.
And that's
I'm just saying.
basically what it was.
Yeah.
But, you know, and we don't know, I see the reservoir going down quick, but I don't know where it's going.
Exactly.
But now I can read the meters and catch it a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks.
Is there any way to program within the meters something that is out of norm to fire an alert? I don't know anything about the equipment up there or the meters.
No,
But,
not in the way I think you're thinking. It does fire an alert every time I read the meters.
Mhm.
If there's something potentially going on, the screen shows me a red triangle, possible burst, possible leak. If it says leak, then there's a leak. If there's a burst, it could just been they ran the garden hose for a couple hours. And if I don't see that the second time, I don't even worry about it. But the leaks. I've set up a little plan where because it's new. So I set up where if I detect a leak that day, I have a pre-written letter that I door tag their house with, that they need to check for the leak. And I'll check again the next day. If I don't hear from them that they found something, I will check their house again. And I also take a report of their daily water use, because the meter holds all that for like 180 days. So I can go put a special optic device on their individual meter, and it will spit out every day's information of what was happening for 24 hours from midnight to midnight to midnight. And I also print out that report and put that with theirs so they can see when it happened or when it started, so they can maybe, oh yeah, this. Yeah.
Like 2 years ago that, went out, we got stuck by a bee and we left the gardens off for a week.
So what would it take, first of all, what's everyone's thoughts as far as changing the tier and having it be a little bit more impactful for such a huge use?
You know, I know when I first moved down to Oregon, I had a house up in Salem. And coming from Idaho, we don't pay for water in Idaho. We're on the Snake River Aquifer. And I didn't know that my water was being metered in my new house. And my first bill after 2 months was over $2,000 because I hit a point where the price went way up. I was out in the backyard. I was trying to use water to bring the hill down for my landscaping because I didn't know I was being charged for that water. But once I hit that certain tier, the price of the water went really fast.
Jumped up quick.
And most of the leaks I find are, the bigger leaks are hoses running. The littler leaks, well, they're still fairly significant, are dripping faucets and toilets that don't stop flowing. And you don't think that those are much water, but they really are.
Quick.
So I just think that maybe council will have a work party sometime or work session and reevaluate how you're billing, especially the upper end users. I know it's not fair, but life's not fair. So.
But I mean, this wasn't a use, this was a loss.
Right. And
So,
it's like, oh, well, if you smack them hard enough, the next time they're not gonna leave it on. Or they're gonna make sure and go out themselves and make sure to shut up. The neighbor across the street a few months ago did the same thing. Grandkid out there playing in the water and left the hose on for days.
to me, it feels like people aren't really taking water shortage seriously.
No, there's a lot of that as well.
And there should be.
Because it takes money out of the pocket, but they're gonna take a lot more care of it.
And it's not like we're penalizing them above and beyond. We're not even recouping our money.
Yeah, no.
So what does it take for us to meet as a group and hash this out?
Which is schedule a work session. I'll ask everybody.
Because I know we've been talking about this now for quite a while.
Yeah, because the lower tiers and the higher tiers, I mean, I use about 600 to 800 gallons a month. And the people are using, 40,000 gallons, I'm only paying $5 more than I am for using way under the limit of water I take. And it should be incrementally higher as you go up higher, because if you use more water, you should, pay a little more.
Well, you look at it from the viewpoint of 16,000 gallons, that's a day of transporting.
Yep.
water.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
That's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
In time.
No,
So we've talked about, we discussed that, I think we ought to, get together and do something with that.
And my estimate of $1,000 in the city is low, because that's basically our trucking costs. That doesn't even take into consideration the water that we buy.
right. Well, you figure average is $70, $80 per load. It's pretty close to that. I think when we looked at it before, it's about $80 a load, just a little under $80 per load, so.
I'll get with Alex later and get that, what they bill us and figure that out.
And I think there needs to be the onus of responsibility on the homeowner.
Oh,
too,
absolutely.
To go out. I mean, I'm not gonna crawl underneath my house to see if I have a drip, but you can bet I'm checking inside my house and checking all my hoses. And I think, people need to be a little bit more cognizant and responsible for that.
There was one, speaking of which, there was one gentleman on, what is that?
So during the,
Spring Street, that he caught his own leak and shut his own water on, called plumbers out. They turned the water on, your pressure's over 100 PSI. You need a reducer. So he called me, he's like, this is what they said, blah, 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 blah. So I went down there and it's like, okay, I tested his water pressure, it pegged my meter. The neighbors all had decent water pressure, 50, 60 PSI. But 60 might be a little high, but. So I talked to him, and that's because I used to walk and read the meters. It's like, you had a secondary box here, if I remember right. So we went out to his side yard. And there's the water meter box. There's a secondary box buried under a bunch of leaves. He didn't even know it's there. And it had his pressure reducer in it that he thought he didn't have. So I go, I'll bet you $90 for one that needs replaced. And he was ecstatic that he wasn't have to have a plumber come redo all kinds of stuff. But it ended up damaging his water heater when that went out. But that's a small thing. But he found it right away. Noticed something different. He shut his own stuff off. So there are people that are paying attention and a little more.
Some do, some don't.
Yeah. So anyways, moving on from that.
So
during
let's-
the wet season, average bills are about 65. During restriction periods, they're probably a little over 80. So,
He was asking what we pay Lebanon for water.
oh, pay 11.
Yeah, it's about just under $80 a month.
Okay.
That's why I said I'd get with you to find out what the bills are. And I can figure that part out.
That's what I meant, so.
I know you're really not into increasing our rates, and I think we need to look at what the going rate is for water. I mean, I don't want to pay more, but
And I have, that's why, because I know that right now, and I still have a lot of the sheets that I went through from a lot of the surrounding areas as to what they charge for their water, and it's based on, by, cubic gallons.
yeah, they do
basically.
very different. than
They
we
do, but Sodaville is on the higher end.
They're also,
Guarantee
if
it.
you look, they're charging out astronomical values or amounts for their sewer, and it's all one bill, water and sewer. So they're still getting, and they have lots of other little fees that they.
They do, but I went through all
Service
that, right? I did. I went through all of it. It wasn't just the water, it was the billing and stuff that goes along with it. Of course, I tried to separate out what, the water was, and I did it for Sweet Home, Brownsville. I think it was Sile. I mean, there's just about 6 or 7 communities in the area that I did. And Sodaville came out on the top end. And I guess that's why I, a little concerned about, beating them over the head continually.
Because the bigger resource pool you have to pull from, the less you have to charge. If you have 300 people paying for it versus 30,000, it's going to be a lot different.
It is. I mean,
And
yeah,
we need to not just-
I agree. It is. But once again, they're paying for sewage and stuff like that, where we got to pay for our own septics and, pumps and
Yeah.
leach lines and whatever else problems we have out here in the rural area, right? So, I mean, we have our own expenses that we have that we're not paying the city for their sewage, right?
But we need to make sure too that we're banking enough money to replace things and to keep things going.
But like I said, we did increase our rates about 3 years ago, and it really didn't add to the bottom line.
I'm just saying during water restrictions, the higher tiers should be looked at to be higher.
Yeah.
Outside of water restrictions, you're probably fine because it's in more or less, it's mostly all profit, more or less. But not-
Right.
But when you're hauling water, the upper, I think should be looked at. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I think it should be reevaluated, gone through, checked and rechecked again, right? I mean, because I've been a huge advocate of water is our only resource, our primary resource here in the city. So, I'm a huge fan of, that as a revenue, so. But not to the point to where we're gouging either.
Right.
And I don't want to be a horrible person, but all of our other utilities are going up. Is that something we need to consider too?
Yeah, well, like I said, we have gone up recently.
But yeah,
Even
within
in
the
the
last year or so, we're going up in our other utilities because the way the economy is going. So
We just adjusted our higher tier recently as well, because there was a little bit of a discrepancy between the lower tier and the higher tier, and we adjusted the higher tier recently, right? I'm saying within the last few months, so. It's
Yeah.
something to look at, something to consider.
we need to talk.
Yeah.
We do.
We can schedule a work session.
Okay,
The PLC, I've contacted town with help and contacted 2 different companies. I got a bid from, a rough bid, I'll say, from one company. And the 22nd, another company's coming out to talk, and hopefully Counselor Hensley will be able to make it and visit with them with me. And then we can go from there.
I'm definitely going to try. I've already let them know we're gonna plan on coming in late that day, so I'm gonna try to stick around.
You could always put him on FaceTime, pretend he's a robot.
It's that day then.
Couple questions for the counselor or whatever. I would like to know where my flexibility is, or I don't know if that's the right word, my authority is kind of. I'd like the city, I would like to be able to, speaking about water, Rick Alley, we've torn up his driveway, or we haven't, but we have. I would like to look at maybe thanking him. And I don't know that I need your permission to do this, or just do it. But to give him a month's free service on either his shop or his house, and he doesn't go above the minimum ever. So one of his accounts, if we could credit him the what, $45 a month it is for 1 month for letting us come through his property. I'd like to buy a load of gravel and spread some more gravel up there. I don't know, I'm sure we got the funds for it.
Yeah, so I did put a note in the packet because you gave me a report that said you wanted to do that. So I added a little note in there that said our accounting software has a pre-existing discount code, and the discount code reads verbatim, city has discounted your charges for reasons they see fit. So yeah.
So do I have the authority to do that without your guys is okay?
I think it's good you bring it to this council,
Okay.
so that everybody at the table knows what's going on.
And it's not something I would take advantage of. I've been here a little over a year and a half, first time I think I've had.
Right, but I think it's a good suggestion, but yeah, I agree, it should come to the council.
Okay.
Anytime we're talking about using up funds, as we discussed.
But I think the question of getting a load of gravel, I know that we set you up with a gas card and we set you up with an account at Wellco and Ace. Is there a spending limit that, because it's exhaustive if you say, I'd like to buy a sack of sand, I'd like to buy or whatever. Should there be a
We should, in my mind, we should have a pile of gravel up at the compound. We should have a pile of sand. If something happens to our main line somewhere or something,
You have the resources at your fingertips.
yeah.
So
For the most part, something happens at midnight, you don't need to wait till the next day to go and try and acquire the materials that you need. It'd be nice also to stock up on some supplies for the actual system to have stuff in case something happens, but that's another time. But yeah, I would like to purchase a load of gravel and spread a little bit of it, maybe 1 to 10 yards on Rick's property where we're digging ruts.
well, the number one thing you need to tell the council is we're already positive.
Yeah.
So. Because that kind of requested, let's get deep here, folks, somebody go find a load of rock.
Yeah.
So I went down and load of rock. So somebody just happened to park their dump truck at my shop and.
That was nice.
So I was able to get another load, and I'd like to give Rick on one of his accounts. Not just.
I approached Rick about you know, personally, you know, for him allowing me to use his driveway because it's so much easier to do it that
On
way.
your truck and the city getting water. Up there.
Oh, yeah, it's way easier to do it the way that we're doing it. And I approached him. I'd like to see you in like the future for to go to dinner somewhere. And he said, no. Said it should be the city's responsibility to do it. So,
I'm all for giving him a credit for his offer.
I'm going to abstain.
Yes,
Got a motion we need to carry.
Yeah. Do we have a motion? Do
I make him give Mr. Alley a month's credit on his water bill.
But,
in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So then I want to speak back to the issue because it's come up before where I don't want you to feel like your hands are tied if you need to work on things for the city. I don't want you to have a carte blanche. I wouldn't want anybody to have a carte blanche, not you, to go out and spend $8,000 on a recliner for the shop up there. But I think there needs to be an area where you feel like I can go out and get XYZ without having to go through, you know.
And if it's something over $100 or so, I always go to Alex and say, hey, do we have the funds for this? It's possible.
Yeah, there are limits in our procurement policy, so we can't spend $8,000 on
But
her.
there needs to be an understanding so that you aren't troubled by this.
right. And JD was talking to me about bringing a loader 3/4 miles to have up there. You know, I don't know where he's going to put it. We'll figure that out.
Well, I'd like to get those logs in a pipe on
Yeah,
and put it over that area.
okay. Just so you have a pile there, so if you need to go
Yeah,
fill some holes in the road, you've got something to work with.
We don't have any holes, but the roads are out there.
Well, there's a couple holes that are on a road that's public, private, whatever that. Blah, 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 but we've done a lot to tear that part up. And I was like, don't put a little bit of gravel on the leaves, and stuff like that.
There's some.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to have a dollar in it, I'm going, because this won't be a lot of time.
I would say just, you know, you're requesting a load of rock, the council needs to just, you know, I make a motion, we get it a load of rock.
The unfortunate part is council meets once a month, right? And I have to take there this meet on the first.
2 weeks
I have to
ago.
wait 3 weeks to talk to you guys. And then wait probably another week to actually get it here. It's kind of.
I think you've been done more outside a little bit. You know, check some balances.
Because
Just going through that.
I get here, I got so many other things that have happened in my mind.
So then what do you feel like, Alex, you're finding that, okay, JD, you know, you need to go get a sledgehammer. I mean, because you can go to Wilco Ace and get those, but again, I believe in city checks and balances. But I also believe that's not trouble you in trying to do your job or make things wait. Let's not make it onerous, but.
Like I said, I think we've already established that, right?
Which switch your procurement routes.
Not $8,000.
I think the procurement statistic to like.
If there was something you could get that part clear.
2,500. So that's kind of what's in there. I just get discretion to go, okay, yes, less than 2,500, you can go ahead and spend.
We haven't already.
There, yeah, exactly.
We don't have any funds. We don't have.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And that's why I usually check with you.
And if I do that, I get punished. So it's kind of built in for, don't do anything stupid.
We'll have the audit.
Yes, I will. If you don't like that. Yeah.
What did Steven charge you for that? Did you get the email for it?
Yeah. It was
It was under $200.
You get it from Americans.
Yeah, that's.
And what's the rule?
Right, they turn you so, but you got this out.
Yeah, it was less than 200s.
Yeah, it was less than 200.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So there are some things where it's kind of like we do need to have a stock of supplies, and we will just go out and get those things and bring the bills to council. Sometimes I will look at I always look at the budget to make sure things are working. A good example of how this has worked was when we looked at we needed to get trees cut in the lot. I looked at how much money we had in the budget, how much it would take, because it ended up being a very expensive project, and doing it would have kind of depleted the entire park budget. I had to look for other places to get the funds. So that was a place where the council needed to intervene, because otherwise it would break our budget and the auditors would have. And that's kind of like, that would be how it, if JD came with a big expense like that, that's how I would do it normally. Otherwise, there's a lot of flexibility right now. Like, when there's a problem, we fix it, and then we bring it to the council to make sure here's what it was. And so far, there hasn't been anybody going, "Oh, what's that? You didn't do that. You shouldn't have done that." So that's because I there's just a lot of common sense that goes into just not spending a ton of money. on stuff that doesn't matter. Yeah,
And comments.
yeah. I mean, like if JD had just gone and
Trust it, yeah.
exactly, like if JD had decided to, get $200 worth of rocks, we probably just would have done that and then brought it here.
So we're working on it now.
Yeah, test drive.
Hey, my neighbor's got a dump truck, I can drive it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna move on again. I'm sorry, I'm keeping you guys so late.
Yeah.
That's on my.
Actually-
Parks, there has been
The clock's off.
I know, but I'm taking a lot longer than I wanted to, or my subject matter is taking a lot longer. Okay, so the parks, there has been a little increase in vandalism the last few months, nothing major. But obviously there's some bored teenagers running around. In the public newsletter, I asked the public as they cut around that area that they kind of keep their eyes open for that stuff.
What kind of vandalism you can experience?
Stupid stuff, trying to burn down the bathrooms across the street.
Plugging them up.
Plugging them up, making big old toilet paper spit wads and throwing them all over and sticking them and stuff. For like the basketball backboards, the trees, the windows of the bathroom. It does. Actually, he locks in and locks in for me most.
That's the ones over there, the one down here, they have.
Yeah, the one down there, it's not.
People appreciate that down there a lot. You know,
It's where the kids are around the playground. They've tried many times to break into the back doors to that old store. My predecessor plugged the hole in the back of the wall with some interior doors that are hollow core. And so that's not holding up very well anymore. They've been patched and braced. I actually purchased a couple sheets of shop grade plywood and some 2x4s, and I need a full day to go down there, take what he put in and all the bracing, and then build a wall and plywood that to help with that. I would suggest even getting a couple of dummy cameras.
Yeah.
Put one on the ends of the building. And on it, right. Cover the eaves of the building so it kind of makes it look like it sees who's coming and going. One on the power pole, if we can. You know, that might be an issue.
We've been discussing having, cameras, they're not that expensive to get some.
They're not. Since we have Comcast,
Yeah.
Steven just bought some down at the shop and they're battery operated, motion operated, and they were 4 cameras. It was under $200.
yeah, most recently there was, to my knowledge, it was a group of about 5 boys and 1 girl teenagers. The girl was said to have purple hair. So I don't know the kids around here. I don't see them on my hours too much. But they were the ones previously that almost got into the building through those doors. And
They've done nothing to get anyway, but it's just.
Right.
Still,
but they could get in. they get in there and they get hurt, or they get in there and they get smoked, they get a cigarette burning or something, start a fire and put it down.
So can we look into the camera system?
I'll leave it to
I would handle this out there that they won't be violated to the full extent, or, yeah, that would be.
Actually, putting up a sign that says smile around camera.
So, and put a dummy camera would even work, but
Yes.
the 5 kids, one of our local people in the area saw them, heard them, watched them with binoculars, called the sheriff's deputy, came out and talked to the kids. Then the deputy apparently pulled across the street, to the lower area, and the kids scrammed after that. Yeah. That's what we need, community support as well. So, yeah, and that's why I threw that in the newsletter.
Yeah.
For the logs, to my knowledge, we received no bids.
Roger put in a bid,
Okay,
$100.
yeah, okay, we'll get them.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that, to learn more about it. Sure.
I'd love to report on that. Thank you. Any questions?
Watch good. You gonna help me?
that's better load up, thanks, got it. I said to want to go up there and tell you, yard, do that, you might want to wait till. Like, once all of it, maybe not.
Brainstorming.
I know. But he's right now, he's got off work for next year, he's not doing his work, he's got work, so he's got time to do it now. So,
If he comes up there and they put the sand and rock up there,
yeah.
if he tears up a little bit, I can help him with his tractor. He can do it with.
I know, he can do the blade too, he gets so upset when he's out of a job, and doesn't speak with Ron and stuff like that.
That's good.
He's got a work ethic, if he wants to leave the place, it's nice he left, as he got there.
Yeah, he can push the poison up a little further.
Take it up, not put it up on my road. Anyway,
Thank you.
okay, okay. You was doing, you blocking the whole area right there, or
I think there's plenty of room.
he should have get around it.
Yeah, I think you could park a trailer in front of his trailer and then just drive the tractor back and forth to logs 30, 40 feet.
Yeah. We'll get that, and then I. In that case, up a little bit.
LOC homeless proposal. So this one's causing a fit among certain people, mostly in this area. Everybody knows there's a big nationwide homelessness problem. Yeah, there's a really big homelessness problem in Oregon, and something kind of needs to be done. The Oregon Mayors Association had a task force on this recently, and 25 different mayors came up with this idea. They say they just want to give every city cash every year to deal with it in their own way. Now, there are a number of cities where revenue is a problem, and they could definitely benefit from some state support, but everybody will mandatorily receive at least $50,000 regardless of size. Now, there's a scale. If your city has more than 4,000 inhabitants, then the revenue goes up. Like Lebanon's going to get $700,000 if this passes. But Sodaville will be required to receive $50,000 from the state every 2 years to address the big homelessness issue in our city. And I'm a big fan of the way this is being put together because I think there are bigger cities that kind of need it a little more than us. But our council president Oliveris has brought up some good ideas about prevention. I think that make this sit well a little bit more with me, so I'll address that. But that's just kind of the primary. Is this group of mayors said, yeah, we should just give everybody money, and I'm like,
That's the primary, you know, that's why we get those people, is because we just keep on these guidelines, right? I mean, prevention is the way to go.
exactly, and there is a lot of here for prevention. I think this is probably going to go through as the new governor wants to make homelessness a priority, and this is the best solution that's been proposed by cities so far. Nobody else has put forward a comprehensive plan. But that was just kind of my thoughts at the beginning. We're like, why are you giving us money? We don't have any homeless people. Yeah, this is a really bad place to be homeless. If you're going to live in a park, for example, you have to do a 10-mile round trip walk to Walmart every day to get a toothbrush and food, so like, nobody bothers.
I do think we need to make city ordinance as well. Nothing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
When you first brought this up, you know, the reason money we don't have. So then during that meeting, someone brought up that you might not, because people won't stay here. People who live here now and they become homeless, they can't stay here because they can't walk to get, you know, what they need at Walmart. And I'm like, you know, you're right. And I don't know a lot of people like you do, but I asked around. We do have seniors and people struggling, you know, and we know the economy stinks. So do we have people who are just supposed to be homeless or are having food security issues? So I think that, you know, I don't like taking money that we don't need, but I think we could think about prevention. Could we maybe do a food bank? I would volunteer to help with that. Buy food for if people need it, you know, so that I mean, can we maybe, we've had a little bit more crime lately. Is any of it homeless people coming in and stealing stuff? Could we maybe have the sheriff come work, pay for that? Is there somebody who, because we make more, we have 1 millionaire or something, I guess, in the city, and we may not qualify for things? Could we help somebody who needs a ramp or who needs something to be able to remain in their house? So, yeah, that maybe they're not eligible for it. I really, and also for being previously a business owner, you spend money you get or you don't get it. So I really don't want to say no to this.
So an organization that just signed up with CFB, is there any way that we can donate some of this money towards them to help the community, our community? Because I mean, that's what the food banks like.
Excessive fiscal agent from the state, like, they just get to them.
I mean, we're paying for them to support our citizens, right?
No, they're all funded by federal grants. So the federal government is paying them to pay our citizens utility bills, rather than us paying them. So
But I'd like this to be creative and see a way to help with this money.
exactly.
So
Oh yeah.
I would just like to interject a little bit. You do have quite often people in motorhomes and beat up cars with, it's like for people you see at Walmart. That's the way it is. They come down here, they try and stay the night quite frequently. Our city has a big watchdog that chases them off quite frequently. Where
Yes.
it does happen, and we're not immune to it by any means. I'm almost thinking that with something like that, it'd be kind of ugly, but put gates up so those are only open during the day and closed at night.
That would be a better deal. You can get somebody coming on this road here, coming this way and go to turn into the park, they're gonna hit the gate.
Only one line up.
Put signs up, we can buy a no truck.
Yeah.
It'll be a whole different-
Yeah, if you're doing 25.
There's one time I had to come up and get people out of the park. They must hear you and he had to come down and tell people the park's closed. They left.
So I put a few different ideas for how the money could be used in combination locally. As I've talked more with our council president now hearing tonight, there's interest in talking about prevention. I think one of the best ideas would be we do keep it, we use it locally, and basically what we would do use part of it to give me another 10 hours a week, and I focus on basically managing a food bank out of here and other services. With that.
I'm not a big fan of food banks, cities. That's just.
There's kind of some people in here.
But only from three of
Yeah, that's good. It could be.
That'd be hard to do.
Because it's loaded in zip code.
Exactly. So I'm, a little concerned about that, I mean,
That's an idea.
I don't know if he was
that
around.
is an idea.
I don't know if he was around. We used to have the picnics here and had the dumpster out here for Sarasota residents to use.
And that was.
Well, yeah.
And
But they delivered out on Friday, we were supposed to open for Saturday morning, thing was already over full, and they just people keep on filling it up, then it wasn't all out till Monday. That's why we don't do that stuff anymore.
other cities do food banks. So could we learn from them and maybe do a little investigation to find out if it is something? And I'm not saying any refrigeration, anything that is fine, nothing. But something, yeah.
most of the things that I'm aware of around here are done by churches and church.
River Center.
River Center.
I think it's water.
They just-
Brownsville, somebody you were at, they could food bank. Brownsville.
Yeah, the river center, and then the church there on Oak Street had like their little food bank.
And that's just one idea, just something where we help people stay there, our residents be taken. And we know, I know, a lot of our seniors are probably very proud and they're not gonna. But if they don't know it exists, so it could be somehow, again, help our citizens prevent income struggling, when things are already getting worse. Actually, things are already getting higher. So,
It doesn't have to be limited to a food bank. There are several types of assistance that could go, like, for example, it could be like if somebody has a mortgage payment that they're struggling to make, that kind of
Or
thing.
water issue.
Water issue, yeah, that kind of thing. So
Another thing you do is get like the smart gift card. And somehow can you get work for food only?
not as Walmart to do that.
but I think that we could have like a one group. I think the first thing is, let's not say no to this.
No, we're not.
And, you know, let's look at what we can do for our citizens to sustain them, maybe prevent them. When a person like, well, you come from our homes, because they can't, like, I said, you can't totally get it 10 miles away. You're right, you know?
Yeah,
Still comes with it quite frequently.
yeah.
I'm saying.
So what you can do basically here is that you can use this for staffing and then basically administering whatever prevention programs you have. So my idea would be you increase my hours to 40 per year. 40 per week, not per year. My hours would go up and I would just spend that extra 10 hours a week working on homelessness issues and prevention and talking to people, organizing, fundraising, that kind of thing to keep it sustainable. So that's
I think that's how just keep trying to be true employees. Yeah, that's the number, that's the key.
What we think, what we're-
yeah, and the operational cost is part of it, part of it can be done. So
But I think in the beginning, we would have to say, okay, how much would that be? Would we be spending more to manage it than we're actually getting and using? And what would that money be help? So it's a potential, but I think a lot of it needs a lot of talking.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Since funding that's gonna happen, we're basically saying, no, we're not gonna refuse it.
The League of Oregon Cities is asking for cities to take a stance in favor or opposition as soon as possible. So they would like to say yes or no to Sodaville support it. So tonight would probably be a good night to say yes or no. We like this. Ultimately, it's going to go through the ringer because it means yes next year.
Yes, we like it, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's one of those, we have to pass it, figure out what's in it. There's going to be a lot of negotiating that goes into getting this passed.
Right.
Because next year.
So what do you need in order to tell them this? I think we need a motion to say. We need to look into the LLC homeless people.
Yeah, there will need to be a motion, to support the LOC homelessness emergency partnership.
Favor?
Nays, motion carries. Okay, so. Next one is
Engineering RFP, the engineering RFP.
engineering RFP.
So this is one that Ray's going to need to recuse himself on because it's the RFP to get an engineer to figure out how we're going to build the well.
The only thing after the meeting, what we can send out, I don't think between now and December 8th.
We can extend that. for
Well, the only thing I'm saying is that for basically people to step up and see, talk about this thing. I don't think that's enough time.
Okay, we can extend that if we want to. Basically, we'll just say if we want to choose a different date, say sometime in January. I'd like to get it done as soon as possible. The state didn't like beating down my door to get the engineering done. It's just like it's this thing we need to do if we're going to move forward. So if we want to say we're not gonna, we want to choose a different date in January, like let's say the January council meeting. So I want to have a proposal done like a week in advance of the January meeting rather than this December meeting.
Yeah, we get the engineering done, right? It's real onerous. We have to get for us to do it, right?
So the engineer will be paid out of the IFA fund. They're gonna do this. Yeah. Yeah, so the engineer's gonna do this, then we're gonna get the money and then for the engineer.
So the city doesn't have money.
Yeah, that's how the process works. So there, things like this are done all the time.
Okay, so what is it we're trying to get in here?
Turning the well on your property that we found is suitable for municipal use into a city well. So it's going to be somebody who looks at everything that goes into what is it going to take to turn that into something we can use.
I think too.
Yeah.
But just saying the right of ways and.
Booster funds, stuff.
Yeah.
It has to be purchased or in the base for the city.
By the way, there's no,
You might check into that before you speak.
How come we can't just use the ditches? Is there, you could get on 6-8 feet down through the ditches, heading up towards water tower and why do we got to?
I mean, my understanding is when you guys did well 3, you had to purchase the right of way in.
This property, this is cement, so there's not.
Okay, so
And things change, so that was looking into it, we really don't.
okay, so that's my question. And then the other question I have, did you throw out the idea of putting reservoir across the street? Basically, I think we did.
yeah.
We did.
75,000 gallons, right?
I don't.
I have not been in the loop. On this, maybe 20%.
We had discussions earlier that, when the thought process says, we need that extra.
When Alex and I had a conversation with, I don't remember who they were, on Zoom or whatever, they were told basically, no, that we weren't interested in that because it was cost prohibitive for what they were offering to do.
Yeah. Decisions have been made, but
Okay.
Who is it that you were talking to? Who is it that you were talking to?
I don't
It
remember.
was Business Oregon. So they're in charge of
And did we
administrating.
say to us it's cost prohibitive, or did we say?
I think we're just kind of not sure yet. This is something that when we talk to an engineer, the engineer should figure out.
Maybe, I don't know that everybody on the council, I think I discussed this with you. And that is, several years ago, Don came to the council for a piece of property across the street. Wanted to get the city to take over that piece of property. Okay, and at the time, the current people in office wanted nothing to do with it, so. One of the, yeah. I talked to Don and McKinney about it, and if we want to put a reservoir across the street, there's plenty of room to do it.
Personally, it's something that the engineers should look at and decide.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it is, it's, before we just rule it out, there is possibility that we could put a reservoir over there across the street.
I just, from what I gathered from the conversation.
Rescue across this property, on the other side of it, North Street development. Not North Street, Washington, what Street development there. Because when John McKinney made that development in there was a bunch of land that he didn't, it was too dense, to put too many houses in there, so there's a lot of property in there that he left unoccupied.
Right.
So he put a house in there. I know John, and I drink coffee with him, when he down there, down the street.
Right.
When you take the property tree, I wasn't sure where that property was. The old, people he's running slower. There's a big property there. Yeah.
What's that?
I was gonna say, I do agree with JD that, I mean, the engineer is the one that's gonna help us to make that decision.
Well,
I don't want to cancel it off the top, but, one of the things that's taken my mind when I brought it up is that, we do have another 75,000 gallon tank or something like that, there's maintenance costs, because we have divers come up and clean them every so often.
5 years.
And, you know, I mean, that's my thought.
And
I
your
mean,
testing's gonna be totally different because that water's been mixed in.
yeah,
I have a big test coming up on the 28th, that I have to fill like 30 bottles and then they gotta be cooled and shipped to Medford and blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the bill is for that. It's an every 9-year test.
but that is something that engineers are gonna be able to help us with, right? You know, so,
And we'll have to manage for.
Exactly.
The big food for that stuff.
I know. They actually gave me one for this test.
So the IFA loan that we're gonna get currently includes rehabbing the well and building the reservoir. So that's what the plan is. If the engineer goes, yeah, this is good, let's do it. If the engineer goes, no, we don't need the reservoir.
I think we should let the expert decide. But I don't think we should do
I just
it.
didn't say what it was saying, no, it wasn't.
Okay,
I
because that's,
remember it a little differently than you did.
yeah, because I thought I had heard that from you that we didn't want to do the reservoir anymore. Close that.
Somebody help us.
Yeah. That was one of those days where I wasn't really feeling well. In the middle of an ear infection. It was, yeah, that was disoriented.
Do you need a motion on this or?
So going back to earlier, there was a question that this is a little too soon.
I think with the holidays coming up, you know, next week. And then asking for bids or proposals by the 8th of December, so a little quick.
Yeah, so the idea behind that was to be able to get one in place basically the week before a council meeting. But what we could do is instead have it the week before the January council meeting, so that in January we can then figure it out.
And then instead, I can't see.
January 21st, I think is going to be the, or January 19th will be the council meeting, so. Well, we just to say, we're going to issue it now and 2 weeks to get back to
And
us.
will the people asking for this understand we have 2 huge holidays? Basically. Christmas, New Year's, so will the, in January, be okay with them, whoever them is?
That's right. I can't do the water test next week because everybody's closed down for this week.
It's pretty, switch from a month. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it was off the calendar. Nothing goes down. Don't let the walls hit the young.
They already had Christmas out in early October.
It's great.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, so the proposal must be received by 12 p.m. Thursday, January 12th. And then the council will make a decision on Thursday, January 19th at its council meeting. So there's 2 months to do this rather than 1.
With all those.
So if we're good with those dates, basically say I move to approve RFP 2022-2 as amended.
I just thought it was.
Yeah,
Great.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
So you need a motion on that.
yeah.
So I vote to approve. The amended RFP 222. As was discussed.
We have a second on that one.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah,
I'll second.
Favor? Okay. Any opposed?
Okay, you got a cheat sheet.
Now we got the ordinance 4208. Okay, I will now open the public hearing, consider ordinance. Yeah. Hearing will be executed as follows. So make an opening statement. And any ground rules, this will be followed by the proposed ex parte contact or conflict of interest in the part of health members, city recorder, elected county, for the city. And will be present. The ordinance council members may ask questions to the speaker at any point for the hearing. Public will have opportunity to speak, to ask questions during the public testimony. Setting ground rules. When testifying, please give your name, address, and address to the recorder. For those of you testifying, please give a testimony related to the application and be as concise as possible. Although this is not necessary, most hearings may ask you to limit your testimony to no more than 3 minutes. Is there any member of the audience have any objections to the city council jurisdiction on this matter? No. Is any member of the city council have any conflict of interest regarding the regards? If so, indicate the nature of your conflict of interest and leave the council chamber if necessary.
Nope.
Hearing none, has any council member had pre-hearing contact or any party involved in the case, either for or against the proposal? If so, explain your pre-hearing contact.
Mr. Mayor, I did speak with Council President Oliveris about this one a couple days ago. She just had some questions about the summary I had been given, so.
Okay.
That was that.
I will have asked my hand to city recorder read the ordinance in its entirety, unless someone on the council will like to make a motion to have it read by title only. And city recorder, that's the bill. The charter requirements for this ordinance be read by title only.
You need a motion.
A motion to read by title only.
I make a motion to read by title.
Good. Second on that one.
I'm sorry.
What favor? Carries.
So the review covers the city's, so this is ordinance number 2, and I mean, literally the second one passed after the charter was amended in 1953. So this is ordinance number 2, and it was supposed to prescribe a list of city officers. Basically, the progenitor of the city recorder and the public works director are listed. This one now, under the old charter, the mayor was in charge of appointing directly the recorder and the public works director. It's still on the books, and it's not really in line with the current charter or current council rules about how they want councilors to act. They don't really want, as of ordinance 1201 section 9, they don't want to have individual councilors having authority over individual employees. They want the council collectively to be in charge of what goes on. So the idea here is to propose some changes, basically bringing in line our current city employees, their current titles, and then the council's current preference for how they interact with staff. So the first section in there deals with, it says, now the council collectively has authority to hire staff rather than the mayor being the one who gets to appoint the city recorder and public works director every 2 years. And then it also removes that 2-year term of employment. So it's not every 2 years we're up. It's just kind of whatever we agree to with the council. Section 2, the city recorder's title is city recorder and not recorder treasurer. And that was an old one. The old charter said there needs to be a recorder and a treasurer. Well, let's make it the recorder treasurer. Then the title's changed every few years for the last 180 years. So, and then it also makes some changes to the way that finances are handled. So right now, this ordinance says that I'm supposed to be the one writing all the checks and keeping all the books. Right now, currently, we have an accountant doing that. So this changes the language to make sure that I am charged with making sure the accountant does the work, rather than being the one who does it, because I kind of have that supervisory role anyway. When the accountant comes in, I'm the one who sits through and we make sure the bills get written. We look over problems and whatnot.
But we don't need to.
No, so this is just about making sure that we get it done, not.
But the recorder can still do it if we can use it in the future, not that.
Yeah, this makes it more flexible.
Right,
Exactly.
okay.
Yep. The next one is that it abolishes the 6 month, the $6 a month salary for my position. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah. Section 4 was the original procurement policy that has been since replaced by ordinance 9401, where the mayor is the procurement officer unless the mayor designates somebody else to be the procurement officer. The mayor has designated me to be the procurement officer. And I officially have the title of city recorder / assistant to the mayor, but assistant to the mayor just means I handle procurement like buying rocks for GD. So this just removes the old procurement officer language. And the next section is renumbered. The title of city marshal and street commissioner. I know it was a fun one, but it's now public works director officially. What you gonna do? Yeah. It's true. It also abolishes your 6 months, your $6 a month salary and your overtime of $1.50 an hour. So we're going to pay you a little more than that now. I hope you're happy with that. The next section is just one that's renumbered. It says the bond for employees is only $500. That's significantly higher now. So we just get rid of that and say the council is going to choose how much they want. The next section was just renumbered, and then the final section was also renumbered. So if you read the full ordinance at the end, it's going to say an emergency clause. That emergency clause was put in 1953. You can't really remove something that was done that long ago as an emergency clause. I didn't put in a new emergency clause. So without an emergency clause, it takes place, or it comes into effect 30 days from now. There's no civil liability currently right now because the city is already obeying federal wage laws. So we don't really need to immediately change this. It's pretty much fine that we just say this is going to affect 30 days from now, like all the rest. So it says emergency clause because it was in there in 1953, not because we put it in there in 2022. We don't have much work.
People wishing to testify on behalf of the ordinance will now testify. Remember, give your name, address, and the record. Do any council members have any staff have any questions? All people wishing to testify in opposition or to the ordinance will now testify. Please give your name. Do any council members or staff have any questions? Do any people wish to testify? Do anyone, does anyone wish to testify in rebuttal to the testimony that's been offered? I'm hearing that. I will now close the public hearing discussion. Before I continue the public hearing, are there any other additional questions, council members, or staff, or anyone that has testified? Once the hearing has been closed, only council members or staff may speak.
I'll just go ahead and read it by title. Amendments or ordinance 2208, amending ordinance number 2.
Okay, public testimony is now, so the hearing is now closed. The city council shall now discuss on it and make a decision.
Would you need a motion to accept this ordinance?
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept ordinance 22-08. That's second. In favor?
Here. Okay. Open.
Talk about taxes.
Yes. We want to discuss that now, we want to get it later. We've got tax bills, it's gonna be, and 4 or 5 months or whatever we take for it. Back due. This year, they only charge it, well, I charge like $5 or. They don't charge it. No, but they're,
Well, they're just showing us the interest as it's approving this year. So the total bill it was like 2,500 something. Now it's gone up by whatever the interest is. So
One of those properties is probably not the city's property. Mistake.
yeah,
and I went to the county and talked to them about that, to see if they can do it, they can do something about it, things go at city property. And they say, well, they can't discharge the taxes. They should be paid. But the county can also cannot foreclose on public property, public city property. So if we don't want to pay those taxes, then just keep going on and keep raising interest until someday they'll build. And then many years from now, when they decide they can do that, they're gonna come at the city with the, but then we don't have to worry about it.
I probably the reason we're gonna go ahead and try to pay it, so I go there, you know, I mean, it's on a no loan right now, so. I mean, is there a plan or something for how we're or we could budget for like next year?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, I think that's the first step, to get that one.
We need to make sure that he's got his out.
Yeah.
Then clean up the rest of it.
Yeah, no, I gotta see that, because for when we are, right? So.
Ralph Stearns,
For Humanity owned it, yeah.
Ralph Stearns donated, or actually he didn't really donate, I think he sold that to Habitat Humanity. And Humanity traded to us for that property with there. Well,
Ralph Stearns didn't pay his property taxes the last year he owned them, so they got phoned off to Habitat.
so then Habitat Humanity owned them, they had it for a year before they, without thinking about having to pay taxes, because they're a nonprofit organization, they don't pay tax either. So now the taxes come to us, and supposedly we've been getting a tax bill for ever since we owned that property, how long that's been, but we haven't seen it. So Alex came in and says, hey, yeah, we owe property taxes on these properties.
So they won't forgive it? I mean.
They won't, they cannot, the county, people over the county courthouse say they cannot forgive the bill. They cannot force us to pay it. They will not forgive it.
Would it do any
Will
good
not be
to talk to the
done.
county commissioners about it?
Huh?
Would it do any good to talk to the county commissioners about it?
I don't know.
I think that would be the next thing to do.
That's
is
what
go-
I'm asking.
Yeah,
that's-
Do we
yeah,
need to
it might
talk
be-
to the
might be a
county
good idea.
commissioners about
But
be like-
I hate the city having to have that over their head forever.
And I think we need to be good stewards of it and do what's fair and reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't even know that we owed it though, and then all of a sudden it comes back and,
Yeah.
and it's a discovered bill, I mean, I don't know how we can be responsible unless,
Maybe
you know,
do
because if it would have
later.
been $500 to begin with, it'd paid the damn.
Yeah, really. They said it would have paid it, but we didn't know. Like I say, Alex brought it to my attention here a few months ago, and I took it over to the county office and talked to him. You know, because we had no idea. She said, well, you've been getting a bill every year.
No,
I says, well, hasn't been coming to our board, to our council. We didn't know about this. Until,
I think what we need to do is get all the county commissioners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so
We,
too. I think that's
we
a
did
good
discuss
idea.
it at council a little bit ago, and the motion was to take it up with the county, and then if it doesn't get resolved with the county, go to the city's attorney to figure out what can be done. Going to the commissioners still falls under that motion,
the first one.
Okay,
so if they don't
Yeah,
want to do anything, then
I agree, Ray. I think that's the next step. Take it to commissioner
Yeah.
and see what they say and.
See if the county commissioners can help us out with this, you know, why are we paying taxes on city-owned property?
okay, we'll make a motion of that.
well,
So
the
already-
motion,
Still.
the motion was made.
Work on.
Yeah, so- What I can do is call up one of the commissioners, go, hey, I'd like to meet with you and our mayor-elect to talk about just stuff and bring this up while we're there, so.
I think that's
I
good.
think that's what we need to do.
Yes,
Okay,
agreed.
yeah. And it's not that much right now, really. I mean, the interest is more than the taxes were.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem. If they could just drop, like I told them over there, if they would drop the interest, I just paid the tax on over there, but they can't do that.
But what about to Anthony's property?
Well, Anthony's property needs to be
Well,
cleared.
But we need to take it
we-
off,
Yeah, we let him know about it, so he better do
But
something
what's-
about it, yes, but
you know,
Are they broken up? My question would be, are they broken up, or if you pay a little, or you paying, is it spread out on all?
you know, there's tax, there's sheets for each piece of property.
Yeah, the collective amount is 2,500.
I mean, Anthony should be getting his own property tax
Right.
bill by now. I mean, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know, I
and
mean,
that's something we can talk to we don't even own this
If they
property,
show it reported to him, they may not even show that.
Yeah.
in which case he better change it or it's ours.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
And we want rent.
That's what we're gonna do is how can the
Pay for our
sale of
taxes.
the transaction go through if the taxes were never
Yeah.
paid?
That's what I can understand,
You know,
So that means, does that show that it's his?
Yeah, you know, that's just it, because
So maybe the
No one-
state still owns it.
no one sitting out here had any access to what's going on in the back room. Unfortunately.
So that's something you and the mayor-elect are gonna take on?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. So, that's, okay. We got that, okay, so. Anything else we gotta discuss tonight?
Any public comment?
Public, any public comment? How about any council reports? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second on that.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Don't see any. Motion carries.